Hi everyone, today I'm showing you how to make my king chess piece design. Hi, I'm Melanie from Balloon Artworks. I'm inflating two 5-inch balloons with 3 strokes of the hand pump. 1, 2, 3. And that's about 4 inches in diameter. Put a twist in the neck. 1, 2, 3. Round off the balloons slightly by pressing down on the table. Put a twist in the neck and tie those two together. Okay, and make another one of these duplets. Connect your 2 duplets together at the centre and then just wrap a balloon from each duplet around one another, and that connects them together. I'm inflating another 2 5-inch balloons, this time with 4 strokes of the hand pump. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you're using the Qualatex hand pump, that is approximately 4.5 inches in diameter. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remove from the hand pump, press the balloons down on the table to round off, wrap the necks over one another and tie together, and make another one of these. Again, connect the 2 duplets together at the centre, and taking one balloon from each pair, just swap those balloons over one another, wrap them around one another, and that connects them together. Take your quads, and in the larger quad, grab one of the necks, pull the neck upwards and pull it in between 2 of the balloons in the smaller cluster. Okay, the upper cluster. So I've got that neck through here, and it's important that the balloons in the upper cluster sit in between 2 balloons. So the upper cluster balloons should line up with this little gap in between the 2 balloons in the lower cluster. Then take that neck and just wrap that around the balloons in the upper cluster, and then you can just let go. Okay? Stay there. I'm using a sand weight, and I'll leave a link in the description showing you how to make these sand weights. But white isn't the best colour for this design, but I like to make my sand weights in advance, and I don't always make them in the right colours. So I've got a quick trick for you. I've got an 11-inch balloon. I've just cut off the neck, and I'm pulling that apart, and I can just drop the sand weight into here. You can do this with water weights as well, and that just transforms the colour, and that is just going to disappear in the base, and you're not going to notice that it was ever white. Okay, so just pull the neck of the white balloon on that sand weight into the base, this is the larger cluster, up into the upper cluster, the upper quad, and just wrap that around and then let go, and you've got a really well weighted base. Next, I'm using a 646 balloon. So these are the largest size of in the range of the twisting balloons. You can get 650s depending on which brand you get, but the 646, they are so named because they are 6 inches in diameter when fully inflated and approximately 46 inches long, or in the case of the 650, approximately 50 inches long. So we're not going to do anything too fancy with this. We're just going to inflate, and you can buy these in multi-packs, which if you've not used them before, I do recommend you do that. Okay, so you get a whole bunch of different colours. I'm not counting strokes here, I'm just inflating, okay? And then okay, so I want a bubble that is about 20 inches. Now I have a handy gauge here on my table. Mine's a 4-foot long table. It has a split in the middle. So when I measure this against the end, I get a very rough guide to the size. So that is around 20 inches, but it's a little bit bulgy here. So I'm just letting some of the air out just to soften that and try and create a bit of a uniform shape, and then tie. Okay, so I do like using these larger balloons, the 646s and the 650s, because it just gives you more scope for the designs that you can make. Okay, so pull the knot and nozzle into the base here, pull that neck right down into the base, and then wrap around these balloons in the upper cluster, and then just let that go, and that's well secured. I've inflated a 260 to a 4 to 5 finger tail, and I'm going to make a bubble that is about 4 inches or so. Okay, So I make a twist and then I can break the rest off. And tie that in a knot, okay? So just put this to one side and then tie this off. And I want to make another bubble that is very similar in size. It doesn't have to be exact, but similar in size. Okay, and then I can trim off the rest here and tie a knot. But I have got this long bit of excess here, and in the end of this excess I want to tie a couple of knots. Okay, so I want to make the end of this excess quite bulky. Okay, so I've got a couple of knots tied at the end just there. We can trim off the ends here, apart from this long one. And then I want to split this balloon in half as close as I can. Okay, so I've made a twist and then just hang on to that and then do the same thing here. Again, as close as you can to twisting that in half, and then just connect these together at the centre. Okay, so that's what you've got. I'm inflating an 11-inch balloon all the way. So don't worry about counting, just inflate this all the way. So once you start seeing teardrop shape, you'll know you've inflated that to the right sort of size. So I'm doing this to stretch out the latex and then letting the air out quite a bit. Okay, so I don't measure what size I'm going to. So I want the balloon to be quite squishy. I want to be able to squish the balloon. So I'm happy with that. That is probably around 6.5 inches in diameter if you do want to measure, but I like to size this by eye. And then I've tied a knot, but I've not tied it tightly. I've tied a soft knot, and then just take hold of that knot and run it along the neck. So if you don't pull tightly when you first tie that knot, you can roll that knot along the neck, and it means that you can squeeze the air into the neck. Okay, so we're going to take our cross, we're going to take a little piece of 160, and as I press down, press the air into the neck as much as I can. I can't get it all the way into the neck, but I'm going to place those two knots together. So I'm just placing that on top of the other knot. If you find this difficult, you can tie those together. But then here, with this hand, I'm grabbing hold of the knot. So my fingers disappeared inside the balloon here. I'm grabbing hold of those knots that are inside the balloon, and I've got both knots, and I can remove my finger and put a twist here. So twist this around. We can do this because this balloon is very underinflated. And then grab hold of your 160, wrap it around those knots a few times. Okay, I'm still holding on to those knots, and then tie a knot. So this is called a marriage twist. So when we're connecting one section of the sculpture to another part of the sculpture in this way, using this technique. Okay. And if you want to round this off a little bit or centre this a little bit more, you can press down on the balloon and just move the air around a little bit, just to get a little more of a rounded shape. Okay, so this is what you've got. To add some contouring to the base, I'm wrapping a 260 around the 646. Just twist a section here, and then wrap the knot and nozzle around a couple of times, snip off the end and tie. And when I'm using this technique, I do like to tie twice because there's quite a lot of tension on these knots here, and then just trim away the messy bits. And then using a 160, I'm doing the same thing, just sitting that on top of the 260, wrapping, twisting a section here, then wrapping the knot and nozzle through, snipping off the end and tying twice. And just tidying up these sections here. I want to give the base a fuller appearance, so I've got a 350 that I've inflated to a 4-finger tail, and I'm just wrapping that in between the two tiers of 5-inch balloons. So again, using the same technique, and just pulling the 350 around and then tying them together, the two ends together. Just put a twist in the top of this 646 and then snip off the end and then just tie that into a knot. Take the top of the chest piece and using these 160s, just connect the two together by tying the sections together. So I'm tying the 160s to a bit of the 646 excess, and then I'm just going to snip away this excess here. And to support the crown, I'm adding some more contouring with a 260, using the same technique, just wrapping that around, twisting here, passing that knot and nozzle around this section here, and then just breaking this off. And then the same with a 160. And because this is such a tall design, I like to add some contouring to the centre as well. So I'm putting a 260 around the middle, followed by a 160 above the 260, and another 160 below the 260. If you want to learn how to make more chest piece designs, check out this video next.